This works, so I'm good.
Yes, well, you know, together.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Revenue Estimating Conference. Hey, Nellie, how are you? I think we've got everybody at the table. Hey, Donna, will you do roll call for us? Or do you want me to do it? Oh, I got it. I will do roll call. Not a problem. Honorable Helena Moreno, Mayor, is here. Honorable Leslie Harris. Here. Honorable J.P. Morrell.
Here.
Joseph Geruso.
Here.
Alyssa Rambo.
Here.
And Mara Baumgarten. Here. All right. We have all members present, which means that we can get started. Let me start first with the adoption of the minutes from the January 27th meeting. If I can get a motion, please. It's been moved by, I was about to call you Councilmember. It's been moved by CAO Geruso, seconded by Councilmember Harris. All in favor, please vote your machines. All right, and that brings us to item number 3 on our agenda, which is the discussion of the 2026 General Fund Revenue Forecast. Mr. CAO, I'll turn it over to you for any opening comments, and you can proceed with that agenda item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For anybody who is watching, to borrow Councilmember Green's phrase, the millions of people watching at home, you're going to see today some reports from the Finance Director about the state of revenue collection through the beginning of the year for the first quarter. Want to make sure that everybody understands where those are. Thank you to Mara in particular for asking that those be included in today's report. And then secondly, we're going to update numbers from the original REC. Some numbers are the same, some numbers are a little bit lower than we would have anticipated. And then actually we're going to add money as well as a result of new revenue found for the city of New Orleans. We want to make sure we're recognizing that as we do the budget for this year. So with that, Alyssa, I will turn it over to you to discuss revenue collections.
All right, so this report is actually...
There you go.
All right. Thank you. This report is actually hot off the press, a March 31st preliminary numbers that will be later presented at the Budget Committee if there are no changes to this number. So right now we are showing that we are at $315 million for the year versus 289 where we were last year. So that's about 39% of our budget and slightly ahead of last year. Making our way through this report, we can see that our property taxes are running at about 92% of our budget. Sales tax, just about 25%, which is where we would expect it to be. Property taxes, we know, are received mostly in the first part of the year, which is why we're seeing this large number. We don't expect it to go up much more from here. But what we are trying to make sure that, that this budget is correct and that this is based on a number that knowing that we won't receive 100% of property taxes assessed. Does that make, yes. Is that clear? Okay. So I just want to look through that just a bit more, but this is at 92% as of March. Moving through the report, we can see our license and permits, other intergovernmental revenues, service charges, which is our fees like sanitation and parking meters. We have our fines and forfeits, which we can see is much higher. We're at 29% of our budget versus the 7% that we were at this time last year. Notably in the parking ticket collections and the impounded and abandoned vehicles line. And then one more thing to point out is on the miscellaneous 6-5 miscellaneous reimbursement line, we're showing this 16 million. This is much higher than we projected. This is because of the receipt of something that we will recognize today in the $15 million from the NOBC.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, I will move on to the update to previously recognized revenue. I know most of you all will be familiar with this, but I did think it was important to walk through all of this because There were 4 components that made up the additional one-time revenue that the city was able to find this year as a result of Mayor Moreno's transition team and the work that the council previously did on this. And so you will see an update on Sewage and Water Board, Wisner, ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, and on parking enforcement. On the Sewage and Water Board collections, I'm pleased to report that Sewage and Water Board said that they would pay the city this year $29.5 million, of which 27.2 have been received so far. And I'm going to look at Alyssa. I think we have another 1.5 that just came in this week as well. So once we recognize that, the next REC will be at or extraordinarily close to that $29.5 million number. So fantastic work to all the folks who've worked to do this. I know this is an issue that's near and dear to many of us. Wisner, we are changing this number from $16.4 million to $14.1, and here's the reason why. If you look at the table, the funds on hand were projected in December and January to be $7.6 million, and in fact, it was $11 million. And I want to thank the council because they stopped any of that spending and made sure that it remained cash on hand. We've also learned that revenue, we were projecting down a little bit. This is not a surprise as a result of certain things that have been happening in the oil community now. That number has been reduced slightly. The biggest hit to this is the federal tax return, which is going to be in abeyance as long as the case remains in litigation. So we felt it prudent to take the addition of the $3.4 million and then take out the roughly $6 million. And so we're at minus 2.3 on Wisner. One of the other hard things the administration was confronted with was the fact that there were a number of programs, the American Rescue Plan Act, that were initially cut as a result of the mayor considering those and looking at a number of different programs. That ultimate number, which started at $14.75 million in December and January of 25 and 26, has now been reduced to $9.3 million. So as a result of the fact that many of the programs retained their funding, we felt it prudent to reduce this number from 14.7 down to 9.3. And then I won't spend much time on this. Parking collections remain exactly where we had anticipated them. And to this estimating conference, I will tell you that according to our internal folks, the numbers remain on track. Councilmember Harris.
I know that this indicates we're going to hire 50 new parking enforcement officers. Where are we with that?
So there's 2 different things that are going on right now. First is, as I understand that the council is going to introduce tomorrow at its council meeting, moving parking enforcement over to NOPD. And I also understand that the hiring process will start in short order, either commensurate with or right after the transfer, and that you ought to see people starting to be hired probably about July. All right? And I will also say, because John Wisby will remind me if I don't, that apparently just as a result of better enforcement, already in the first quarter of this year, we're ahead of what we anticipated and why we think we're going to remain on track. And thank you to the council for undertaking to do this. All right, on to the new revenues, which is the real reason where we're going to have to vote on something today. There are 2 interagency transfers that we are going to recognize today. The first is from the New Orleans Building Corporation, which approved a transfer of $15 million from its fund balance. Those funds have been received, and they make up part of the $90 million that's in the cash management fund as of right now. Also, thanks to Councilmember Harris and others on the council, New Orleans Municipal and Traffic Court judges have agreed to a transfer of $5 million from its fund balance. What we put on here to the members of the committee is that we expect these funds for the next 30 days. I'll put a finer point on it. The press conference is on May 6th, so I think we will be getting those funds sooner as opposed to later. The next thing, members of the committee, I said this at the budget committee last week, but I'll explain it again here. When the city wrote to Sewage and Water Board about $14 million in bond-eligible funds Sewage and Water Board had, those were not being used anymore because the state has not approved its portion of what Sewage and Water Board needed, and therefore Sewage and Water Board had a unfunded state mandate. We therefore asked to get those bond-eligible dollars back of $14 million. Those are in the city's coffers right now. And what we did was we swapped out that $14 million from Sewage and Water Board against the revenue that we gave to Sewage and Water Board from the American Rescue Plan dollars for the substation. So we are now able to recognize that as operating cash instead of bond money, and that is an additional $14 million. So that takes us roughly now to 34 and an increase. And then members, this one is kind of interesting, and I want to thank Brandy, Mike, Alyssa for sort of pointing this out. Also, Senator Landrieu made sure we were aware of the increase this year. Go Mesa money is money the city has been receiving under a federal program, but for reasons I don't quite understand, has never been recognized as revenue. So even though the money's been here since 21 or 22, we haven't recognized it as revenue, and now we're going to. So this is a little bit about members, $800,000 more than we've received in the last several years. And so given the fact that the city is actually using that money and having it, we thought it prudent to recognize it as additional revenue. So this is just the initial REC forecast. It was initially in September, $725 million and some change. And then, as everybody will remember, as a result of what the council did and what incoming Mayor Moreno did, was add roughly $75 million in additional revenue, taking the 2026 budget up to about $800 million. What we did here, for simplicity, and thank you to Mike for revising the slide, we took the $15 million from New Orleans Building Corporation, the $5 million from Municipal and Traffic Court, the $14 million from the reclassified bond-eligible funds, and the $2.9 million from Go Mesa, and got roughly $37 million. We then subtracted nearly $8 million, $7.8 million overall, as a result of the changes that I explained earlier, the $2.3 million from Wisner being reduced and the $5.45 being reduced, thereby taking the revised 2026 forecast from $799.7 million to closer to $830 million, $828,800,000. And as the committee members can see in the footnote, this is an approximate $29.1 million increase overall. So I just want to say again, kudos to everybody who's worked so hard to get this to this place. And with that, members, I will ask for a motion to approve the amended official 2026 revenue forecast, moved by Mayor Moreno, seconded by the Finance Director. 5 yeas, no nays, and with that, Mayor Moreno, we are done.
All right, thank you. There are no other matters, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved by CAO Giarrusso, seconded by Councilmember Harris. Please vote your machines to adjourn. 5 yeas, no nays. Thank you all.